In this video, I will continue my examination of the Watchman's answer to an atheist's email during his podcast of May 3rd, 2010. After brushing off the observation regarding Elisha and the bears, Robert King the Watchman turns next to the emailer's question regarding strange demands made upon the early Israelites regarding the planting of crops and the combination of materials used for clothing. These passages are found in Leviticus 19:19.
Thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed, neither shall a garment mingled of linen and woolen come upon thee.
So this business about Jehovah forbid them to sow their field with two different sorts of seed, and also they could not wear a garment that was composed of two different types of fabric. He gave them laws such as this. Why did God forbid the planting of two different crops in a field? I don't know. Maybe he has a good reason. He doesn't have to explain himself, though, does he? He's the lawgiver. And Jehovah's, he dealt with moral issues, sexual matters, all aspects of human life. And that's what we would expect from a caring God who wants what is best for his worshipers.
Well, the Watchman doesn't know. Isn't that nice? What he ends up doing is making the biblical God look like a dictator who passes laws on a whim. Whatever the despot says, goes. And this is very consistent with how he treats the story of Elisha and the bears. It seems God murdering children for insulting a man whose baldness was apparently his weak spot is perfectly acceptable for the Watchman in that ancient society, as it would be today in some Asian cultures. While such an act would be criminal in most modern Western societies, what makes it acceptable in the past is that these people lived by a different set of morals. Morals apparently followed by their God. However, I don't think this passage from Leviticus is all that strange. It certainly wouldn't have been one that I singled out. The Bible is filled with rules and regulations about keeping the Israelites separate from their Near Eastern neighbors. The books are also filled with notions of God as a separate being, holy, untainted by the sins and wickedness of mankind. It matters little whether or not these assertions are true, only that the Bible makes them, and undoubtedly some of the ancient Israelites believed them. The book from which these ordinances are taken were written by the priests of the Yahweh cult. They were obsessed with the rules of society and religion. So the Bible depicts God as the creator of the world, but separate from it. I think that to remind the people of Israel of this separation, rules were put into place to keep items within the daily lives of the Israelites separate. So one shouldn't crossbreed animals or plant different plants in the same field or combine different materials together in forming a garment, just as the seventh day of every week was set aside as holy to remind the people of Israel of God's creative week at the beginning of time. These laws to keep things separate was a reminder that Israel shouldn't mix with other Near Eastern neighbors, bring in various gods from other cultures, and to keep God as one, wholly separate. In my opinion, the laws were more symbolic than literal, otherwise they do make little sense, even if they were not inspired by an omniscient being. But if we want to look for something freaky in the book of Leviticus, besides all the rules and regulations for animal sacrifices, and the fact that God loves burnt offerings, the smell of sizzling animal fat especially, we could look at Leviticus chapter 10. Here we find another case of God committing murder for the strangest of reasons.
And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took either of them his censer, and put fire therein, and put incense thereon, and offered strange fire before the Lord, which he commanded them not. And there went out fire from the Lord, and devoured them, and they died before the Lord.
Now what was all that about? Apparently, just like the kids in Elisha, Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, somehow dissed God, and he wiped them out. So the moral of the story here is don't piss God off by calling one of his prophets a baldy, and don't mishandle his holy flames, or he'll smite you.